I'm Robert Schiller, and you're watching Whose Time?
罗伯特·席勒，耶鲁大学经济学教授，2013年诺贝尔经济学奖得主。他曾被美国外交政策杂志评为全球最具影响力的100位思想者之一，因他将经济学拉回现实。他敢想敢说，反驳了人是理性的这一经典经济学假设，并成功预言数字危机。他幽默风趣，凭借着网络课堂耶鲁公开课金融市场，在美国之外收获了大批粉丝。68岁的席勒，如今依旧风采奕奕，看上去颇有英国男影星休格兰特的味道。而他的保养有方与众多成就，也与妻子维吉尼亚的付出分不开。不久前，财新传媒总编辑胡舒立就与席勒夫妇2人展开了一场有意思的对话。诺奖得主能取得今天的学术成就，夫人究竟有何贡献
How did you meet together?That's
an interesting story.
Yeah.
Well, Bob is 7 years older than I, and I was going into my senior year of college, and Bob had taught university 2 years. But he always looked very young,
Yes.
which used to be a major handicap.
For me, yeah.
So if you want to tell the story of how we met.
Oh, I know. I was looking for a wife. I thought it's about time. And I was thinking, like an economist maybe, it's a search problem. How do I find the woman who's looking for me? It's a fundamental. I think if I were a woman looking for someone like me, what would I do? And I thought some wholesome spiritual activity. And I thought of folk dancing. So I went to the MIT folk dancing beach party. And she wasn't a student at MIT, but she was there looking for me.
Well, I liked to folk dance. I was a good dancer. Bob couldn't really dance. That didn't
Well,
matter.
I decided it didn't matter whether I could dance anyway.
Anyway, you met in Boston.
Yeah.
And then I saw her at a distance talking to another man. But I managed to break in and push him aside.
席勒把自己的成功很大程度上归功于与自己相伴30多年的妻子维吉尼亚。维吉尼亚是一位心理学专家，作为行为经济学领域的重要学者，席勒创造性地将心理学分析引入经济学中，这无疑是受到了妻子的启发和帮助。
So when came to the behavioral finance, Ginny was one of your biggest influence.
Definitely, yeah, because
Yeah.
I wasn't into it then at all.
Bob didn't think much of psychology when he met me, although I did tell him some studies on our first date, he tells me.
Really? So Bob, before you met Ginny, you didn't think about behavioral.
Well, I had some dissatisfaction with economics. Sometimes it seemed rigid and I thought maybe unrealistic. But there wasn't any behavioral economics then either, so there was nothing. Well, I shouldn't say there was none, but there was no movement then to. And I just talking with Ginny. When I first met her, she was talking to me about some scientific study in psychology. So I met someone who really appreciated science of a broader nature.
Bob had a very hard time at the beginning as a behavioral economist, and in fact, after he won the Nobel Prize, and they cited his 1981 paper, he got a postcard from somebody who said, I remember talking to you in 1981, and you said you regretted ever having written that paper. And that was the very paper that won him the prize. But it was very controversial, and he would come home from work very hurt and discouraged because people would criticize it.
1981年，席勒在美国经济评论杂志发表了一篇论文，猛烈抨击当时如日中天的有效市场假说。他的非主流观点是，股票价格的波动幅度大到超出了可被股民对股价未来走向的理性预期解释的程度。值得一提的是，2013年，席勒在诺贝尔经济学奖获奖演讲中设问：为什么人们对有效市场假说依旧如此着迷？台下坐着的正是有效市场假说的代表人物，与他一同获奖的尤金·法玛。
I guess for a lot of people, the surprise It's not that you have won the prize, but you've won alongside Eugene Fama. How do you think of his work?
That's an interesting question. First of all, I've read a great deal of Fama's research, and I'm impressed with it, that somehow we come out with a different view of the world from it. It's a little bit hard to pin down what is irrational anyway. Remember, Shakespeare said, if this be madness, there's method in it. Sometimes people who seem crazy, underlying their craziness, there is intelligence operating. So I think that, you know, when you see people flocking to the stock market during a boom, I would say it's irrational. Maybe Fama or people like him would say, oh no, it's a change in tastes. Now people are more risk tolerant than they were before. So, okay, then he's renamed it as something rational.
Yeah, in the paper you challenged the efficient market hypothesis, which was at the heyday at the time.
Right.
Did you feel a hostile reception from a certain corner like that?
Well, at times it was hard. It also seemed like it might lead to my not getting ahead in academia, but I didn't care. I thought, I came into academia because I was interested in the truth. And if that wouldn't get me promoted, well, so be it. That's what I
Well,
thought.
you did have tenure, and that's the...
Yeah, but you got
Eventually,
tenure
yeah.
next year from Yale, right? Does that mean that the open minds are still always dominant in this profession?
Well, I think that actually academia is fairly open-minded, but it doesn't mean that they want you as their colleague. So they may listen to you, and but then not. They try to build an economics department. They want similar people.
Well, I think that's true, and maybe it's faded in Bob's memory, but I do remember him coming home upset at times with really, you know, close colleagues having criticized him. And in fact, when we were in Boston, there was one prominent school that was considering him for an offer, and I really wanted to stay in Boston, and they did not make him an offer, and I think they may regret it. But he was controversial.
You know what it is, that often when they make appointments in economics, they want someone who they perceive as central to the discipline. And so they don't want someone who's just dabbling around with... And the problem is that being central to the discipline often means being like them.
Yeah.
And there are conferences that are heavily populated, and they want to see you at various conferences that are deemed important conferences. But the problem is that often these important conferences are already past, and you have to move on and move away from the past.
Yeah.
So you don't get invited to the important conferences. That's why people who are doing more groundbreaking research often don't get promoted.
So when was the turning point that you felt that your bolster your hypothesis and be broadly accepted?
When I got the Nobel Prize.
席勒获得诺贝尔经济学奖的呼声一直很高，但直到2013年，他才因对资产价格的实证分析所做出的贡献捧得诺奖。席勒最为知名的代表作是2000年出版的《非理性繁荣》。他在书中分析了全美民众对股票投资过度着迷这一众人皆知但无人承认的社会现实，并预测互联网泡沫的破裂。此后，席勒又对美国繁荣的房地产市场进行研究，并在2008年之前便预测了房市泡沫的存在及次贷危机的爆发。这两次精准的预测让他声名大噪。
Your two books, two editions, coincided with your predicting two of the biggest bubbles, the 2000 dot-com bubble and the 2008 housing bubbles. Were you so confident that you wanted to write two books on that?
Well, I don't know whether I was confident or not. I know with the first edition, I was confident enough that I told my editor at Princeton University Press, could we please accelerate the publication of my book? I had this feeling, that worry that the stock market, I've written a book predicting a stock market crash, and the crash might come while it was in press before it came
Well,
out.
not only while it was in press, while he was writing it, everything else stopped. Bob said, I've got to get this out before the stock market crashes. And in fact, I then read it through very carefully because I thought this is going to be a very important book, and I'm the family editor. So I made all sorts of changes, and he came out with really a wonderful book 1 month
It came out in the same month as the peak of the market, so we got it out in time. I have to thank my editor as well as my wife for helping getting this
So
out
you
there.
edited the book.
I edited the book.
Oh,
Yeah.
so you work together.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, I remember you too. You published some essay together.
We wrote one article together
Right.
called Economists as Worldly Philosophers. It was a method piece about how economics should proceed. And the basic message, as I would put it now, maybe you would explain it differently, is that economics requires broad thinkers who read multiple disciplines.
The assignment was, or the goal was to write an article about economics as a moral science. And I said, Bob, how can you say it's a moral science if it failed to predict a crash that hurt so many people? Okay, so that's how we kind of shaped the article, that it really has to be a science that understands a broad range of fields and integrates them and prevents these human tragedies, because so many people were hurt.
Jeannie, Bob went through all the crises. How did this crisis change him and his, in your view, changed him?
Well, I think he slowly grew in confidence. He became a public figure, which was very different than the man I married. And you know, his skill in public speaking, which I'm very proud of him for.
Bob was a little bit shy, right?
He was very nervous. He was very nervous, and I was embarrassed. I thought, oh gee, but he's gotten so good, and so I think that's also inspirational. No, I didn't. I can't take credit for that. I think that, you know, I think skills are learned. I think people acquire, you know, through experience.
So you do 3 works together. The as a working mother, right? Working mother, as a mother, as your own clinical psychologist, and also as the editor of Bob. Together.
Bob and
also,
2 boys as well.
They always come first. I get a request, Mom, could you edit this paper by Thursday? Yes. You are my son, yes.
席勒夫妇有2个从小麻烦不断的儿子，大儿子好动不爱学习，小儿子有读写障碍。但在作为儿童心理专家的母亲的培养下，2个儿子最终都考入了美国顶尖名校。席勒夫妇此次中国之行的另一个目的，便是为了推荐维吉尼亚的新书《奖励出好孩子》以及他的育儿经。
You got your PhD degree the same time your second son was born, right?
Right.
You know, so it's really, really hard time.
It was a hard time, and I was fortunate that I was in a field where I could work part-time. But then we had challenges with our children, and our older son took after his father and was a very active child who did not like to
Like his father.
like
Yeah.
his father. The apple does not fall far from the tree. And but he was not an eager student, and my younger son had a serious reading disorder, quite serious. He could not learn to read a regular way, and we had to figure out what was going on and get him. He actually went to a special school for 4 years.
It's a real kind of disease.
He couldn't tell a 5 from a 2. Yeah, he couldn't tell them apart. There was something really not right.
But
He
why?
couldn't tell them apart.
Why he could become this? Why?
There is a theory that it may be that some areas get more developed and that there's more creativity or more skill in certain areas, but that reading area of the brain is underdeveloped, and that you really need to spend, just like you have to go to the gym and really work out to build muscles, you have to really work and build that area of the brain, which he eventually did. I mean, he's getting his PhD in philosophy from Princeton University.
Oh, really? So everything is normal actually for him, even from the beginning.
Well-
He was physically normal. He was physically healthy.
He was a smart kid, although he thought he was very dumb, which is what happens when children can't
Yeah,
learn
so
to
did
read.
I, yeah. Well, I could read, but I had problems in school.
And Bob, you didn't think you were very bright.
No, I thought I was going to fail the first grade. I remember in the first grade, when I was 6 or 7, I had this teacher assigned a little girl to help me. I couldn't do arithmetic. I don't know why I couldn't do arithmetic at that age. And I was very sloppy. My handwriting was horrible, and my teacher was very harsh on me, actually, and made me feel inferior.
When he was in elementary school, he was a very poor student. He talked too much. He got out of his chair, and his teacher once threatened to tie him to his chair.
Yeah, I was
And
very
I-
restless. Yeah.
I hope the story gives some hope to some Chinese parents whose children are not behaving so well in
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was very restless.
one can succeed in life. In fact, it's important. I think his mother didn't, punish
Didn't
him
pressure me, yeah.
and didn't pressure him and accepted him for who he was.
Shuli and I had a great talk about finance and about the importance of innovation, and I think a lot of important issues came up. I don't know what you want me to say.